And so we do our relaxation breathing, and lately we've been doing our 4-7-8 breathing. And that is actually a wonderful balancing body breathing practice, and it's wonderful for the hormones. And doing that on a regular basis, it really is another addition to do, for health. And as far as, what you're going to talk about today. So I just want to add that in as part of a little tip, because breathing is such a foundation to good health. And it's so important to have good breathing practices. It's just so key, for a good life. So, with that said, let me just introduce our speaker today, Dee Clavin. She's a health coach, real knowledgeable about nutrition, basis for just being healthy. She speaks from the heart, from the soul, and also from experience. So, I'm just always honored to have her. So with that said, thank you, Dee. Can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you having me. So we have been connecting over the course of this year and talking a bit about nutrition and hormones and a couple of other discussions. You mentioned my personal experience. I'm going to bring some of that to you as well tonight. This is kind of knowledge that is evolving over time. But as you said, I am Dee Clavin. I am a health coach. In 2019, I graduated from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and since then have been managing my own health and helping others to manage their health with tweaks to their lifestyle. This particular topic that we're going to talk about tonight, and Lucy, you have my slides, right? Are you able to put those up?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful, thank you. So we're going to talk tonight about what I have come to find are 3 keys to remaining in balance in terms of your hormones. So as I said, we've talked before about specific foods and how they affect the hormones and that sort of thing. This is a more general, but I think more all-inclusive conversation. And to be honest, these last few pieces really didn't come to me until recently through my own personal experience. But I've come to find that if you can keep your focus on these steps, you can experience better health. And I think a lot of us are struggling with hormonal imbalances as a result of stress and lifestyle and such. So we're all in a position to benefit from some steps that we can take to keep things moving more smoothly. So if you would head to the second slide.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to move that, Lucy?
Oh, okay. I thought that was 2. I'm sorry. It's not. Okay. Conditions associated with imbalance.
No, okay. Yeah.
Am I right? No.
Yeah, just go to the next page. Right, just the next page. There you go.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, what's before that? Did you skip one? All right. So
hormones and health.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm looking for right there.
Okay.
So,
I'm sorry.
Thank you. No worries. So for purposes of our conversation today, I really want you to think of this, our digestive system as an engine, because it's going to be important to kind of visualize stuff going in, stuff moving around, and stuff coming out. It's critical. And you took my page away. So the 3 keys that we're looking to focus on. Hold on, let me see if I can get a copy of this here.
Oh, you can't see it?
Oh, you changed my page again, Lucy. So intake, movement, and circulation and elimination are really the keys that we're looking for. Yeah.
Where do you want me to be here? I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. Introduction. Okay, elimination. Okay, move on. Conditions associated with imbalance.
Okay. So we've talked about some of these conditions before, when we've talked about estrogen dominance, when we've talked about gynecological health, hormonal health, but what we're really coming to see now is that a lot of these issues will happen simultaneously. And I've noticed this in my own experience. So when one of these things starts to go, and this is when the engine analogy is going to come into play for you. And I want you to kind of think about how these things will kind of ebb and flow together. So when your hormones kind of go out of whack, when you become a little bit estrogen dominant, when your system is not really balanced, you're going to start to see any number of these things kind of creep up on you all at once. You'll see some bloat around the belly. You might feel some fatigue. You might have some cravings. You might feel a little bit moodier, a little more anxious, a little maybe possibly depressed. Your sleep's disturbed. All of these things are kind of happening in a general kind of funk feeling. And a lot of times you're in this state so much that you kind of don't even notice that that's typically how you're feeling a lot of the time. But as you start to pay attention to this, you will find that as goes one, goes a lot of the other ones. So if you can hit the connection to bring improvement, you can bring improvement in a lot of different areas all at once. And then all of a sudden your body's just going to start to feel a whole lot better. So if you take a look at this list, a lot of those, you've got some digestive issues, you've got, as I said, some emotional disturbances, some sleep disturbances, some uterine issues, not limited necessarily to women, although women do experience a lot of this stuff. Men, it would look a little more, prostate health and erectile dysfunction, that sort of thing. But in terms of women, a lot of the conditions that you're going to see, really heavy periods, terrible PMS, fibroid tumors, polycystic ovaries, that sort of thing. Those are all going to be also associated with these hormone imbalances, and those issues are going to act up along with these as well. So if any of these kind of jump out at you, and I think pretty much all of us have experienced at least some of them, right? I'm hopeful that our conversation will be beneficial in terms of kind of what to do to keep control of this stuff. So on the next slide, you'll see kind of a picture of this engine image that I'm trying to create here for you. And if you want to just slide to the next page, Lucy, please.
Mm-hmm. Intake, or you want to look at the
image, the next page, thanks.
Okay, yes. Mm-hmm. Can you see it?
I don't know if it's moving on yours, but are you looking at a picture of the digestive system on your screen?
Yeah, I mean, I see it. I don't.
Okay,
I don't see anything.
No.
They're not seeing it. I'm sorry. All right. Maybe it's the connection with the internet tonight. Can you see it now?
No.
Okay. Let me stop the screen share for a second and see if I can get it. Yeah, I don't know. There must be like a slower connection, but let me give it another try. Yay. I think Mercury stopped the retrograde. It didn't stop on my computer. You get it? No, you didn't get it. Okay.
It says it's, yeah, no, I don't see anything.
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. Let me try one more time. No. All right. Let me. Okay. Gosh. What to do? All right, we'll get back to it. It's not.
No, I mean, no worries. Like, so it's really, I mean, it's the whole point of it. Let's see. Do we have something now? Looks like we have something now. You ladies have an image there? There you go. You girls got that?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's really just
Hooray!
if we lose the rest of the slides, we'll talk through the rest of it, right? But this is the visual that I'm looking for. If you take a look, and this is something that until recently I didn't even know but for myself to experience, how closely related your hormones, how they collect in your bowels, and what happened in your reproductive system, all of that is. If you take a look at that graphic, it's all operating in the same neighborhood. And your excess hormones, your estrogens, collect in your intestines. They ideally get swept up with all the fiber in your healthy plant food diet, you know, that contains a lot of fruits and vegetables. That all collects in your intestines. And so all of these things are hugely linked in terms of how this works. So going back to our conversation, so intake, right? So let's talk about intake and what goes in at the top and how that's going to affect the system, because you really want to think about the system in terms of keeping it moving and making sure that nothing slows anything down. So if you are able to change that slide, Lucy, on the next page, you'll see, and you'll see the foods that you kind of want to focus on. These are the foods that you almost want to think about medicinally. I eat these foods every day. Let me give you just some quick backstory. So I have, and this is, we've talked about this at length in our previous conversations, Lucy, which kind of prompted a lot of this research. I have some pretty significant fibroid tumors that I have been managing with diet and lifestyle now for about 2.5 years. I was told that I had no option but a radical and complete abdominal hysterectomy, and that if I didn't, that I was just going to continue to struggle. It causes such problems that basically plunges me into some pretty serious anemia. So I didn't want to have that surgery. So I thought to myself, is there something that I can do myself to keep this thing at bay? So long story short, if I keep my hormones in balance and keep my system moving along and keep things from getting backed up, this one in particular, fibroid, stays quiet and happy and doesn't cause me much problems. And I keep my fingers crossed that any day now I'll start menopause and that'll be the end of it and I'll be fine. If my hormones get out of balance, and it's happened a handful of times over the course of the last 2.5 years, if they get meaningfully out of balance, I will bleed, and very badly, to the point of critical anemia and needing very rapid and emergency medical intervention. So over time, I have had to get very good at figuring out what keeps your hormones in balance and what's going to hurt them. Up until several months ago, my focus was primarily on intake, on the first part of this conversation. Foods to eat, foods to avoid, what's going to hurt you. That was really all I was kind of paying attention to. But your body's very sensitive, and as you start to develop a different way of being, your tolerances go down. So over time, I came to find that that's only one part of the piece. One part of the puzzle, and there are 2 other critical pieces to it, to keeping the system moving along. But if you can get a knack for this, and it comes with paying attention to your own body, writing things down, if you can get a knack for this, you can manage a lot of that stuff we talked about that you're otherwise taking medication for or struggling with and not really knowing how to get a handle on it. So in terms of the intake, top of the list in terms of keeping your gut healthy and keeping excess estrogen out of your system. Every day, cruciferous vegetables in some form. Find 1 or 2 things on that list that you like and make sure that you're eating them every day. What cruciferous vegetables do for your body is in many fold. But primarily, the fibers in cruciferous vegetables attach themselves to excess estrogens and strip those out of your body in the process of elimination in a very, hefty kind of, because they're so fibrous, effective sweeping way to keep your system in place. Get your kale in every day. Find a way to have kale, or maybe you prefer spinach, or you love your Brussels sprouts, but really meaningfully have cruciferous vegetables every day. Flax seeds. You want to be careful with flax seeds in their doses. You want to be careful with really kind of any whole foods in their doses because they all kind of do things. So you don't want to have too much of anything, but a tablespoon or two of flaxseed every day in a smoothie that maybe also includes your kale will keep your system moving well. You experiment with what feels good for you. This is not an absolute, right? Everybody's bodies are different, but these are what I've come to find through research. A lot of this you'll find on Dr. Greger's website, nutritionfacts.org, which is kind of where I get all of my scientific journal information, and it's the easiest thing to cite. But flax seeds are very, very effective in keeping your hormones in place. Avocados are very good for uterine and hormone health. Foods in general high in fiber, apart from the cruciferous vegetables. You want to get fiber in. You want to swap out whatever you're having in the morning if it's low in dietary fiber and start your day with something that's going to give you a blast of fiber and keep the estrogens moving through your system all day in real time, because that's another thing I've come to learn. It's not about day to day, it's about hour to hour. And your mood will turn as your estrogens build up, or your mood will improve as they go away. And this is kind of an all day system thing you want to keep going. So you want to get up in the morning and give yourself some nice fiber and get that assembly line moving through as quickly as possible. And then of course, fresh fruits and vegetables, particularly the ones that have anti-inflammatory properties. So berries, antioxidants, those sorts of things that are going to kind of go in and strip away the inflammation and the things that are going to create these issues with your health and with your hormones. And then Lucy, if you would scroll to the next page, you'll see foods to avoid. There are a number of reasons to avoid these foods, but for this conversation, we're speaking specifically about how they're going to impact the engine, how they're going to muddy up your system, and how they're going to keep your intestines from moving along. Things are going to start to back up. So your meat and dairy, your body doesn't know what to do with meat and dairy. It can't process it efficiently. It takes days for your body to process meat. That slows your system down. Dairy tends to be inflammatory to gut health. So that's also going to slow your system down. So meat and dairy, apart from any other hormonal implications that they might have for your health, in terms of your engine, in terms of that analogy, they're going to gunk it up. Processed foods, same thing. Your body doesn't recognize what to do with those foods. A lot of times they're not even actually food, and your body doesn't really know what to do with them. So it kind of just has to stash them here and stash the particles there while it searches for any semblance of nutrients. A lot of times there aren't any. That's also going to gunk up your system. That's stuff that hasn't been able to break itself down. Sugar is going to glue you right up. Sugar is apart from sugar also having horrible impacts on your hormonal health in general and your liver and everything else. And we've talked about some of that. When we're talking about your engine, sugar is going to absolutely be a problem. High fructose corn syrup, which is also just sugar, but sometimes is listed this way in a lot of your processed foods, fried foods, white bread, alcohol, basically all your naughty stuff is going to kind of gunk up your system a little bit. So I'm not telling you not to have any of these things necessarily ever, but if you're going to, be a little bit smart about it and get those cruciferous vegetables working on the other side to help clean this stuff out and keep it moving along. It's really, really important. So much more so than I ever would have thought until I saw its impact in myself. And I had yet another terrifying relapse of this situation until I came to learn how critical it is to keep the machine moving along without hiccups. So before we move on to part 2, Lucy, I just want to stop there and give you an opportunity to maybe address that stuff and converse a bit about it. It's been a lot of me talking for a little while, ladies. I apologize for that.
Good stuff, Dee. Yeah, I mean, I just remember the days of coffee with my sugar and maybe getting a bagel with butter or, a donut on the run even,
Mm-hmm.
and I've never been a heavy person. And I always thought, well, if I'm not getting back, it's not bothering me,
Right.
And so I just continue on here and there. on occasion, I would think I would be doing myself some good, but I was putting a lot more bad than I was putting in the good. And it just didn't work.
And you brought up a really valid point, and I've seen this with a lot of different people over time. If you don't suffer from a weight problem, if it's not obvious on your person, it's often easily missed because it presents itself in different ways, but it's going to present itself somehow, right? Like excess estrogens and hormonal imbalance and inflammation that creates in your body. It may not necessarily always store as weight, to your point, but it's storing itself somewhere. It's affecting other parts of your body, other parts of your system somewhere.
Yeah, I never thought of my body as a machine, or, like cleaning the gunk out. It's almost like you're putting all this bad stuff in. If you were putting maybe sugar in your gas tank or the wrong type of oil,
We would never do that to our cars, right? Now think about how most people live every day, right? Because, and we've talked about this on your program, if you will. Most people eat the same stuff every day, right? So that's why it's important to implement new habits, because we're going to do it every day. It's not the birthday cake, it's the stuff you have Monday through Sunday on your way to work, 5 days a week, whatever it is that's going to hurt you. But if you think about how most people eat, they're getting at least some of this stuff daily, right? So the system's kind of always muddied up and backed up, and nothing's really, getting its full way out, and everything's just kind of hanging around, these broken particles, these broken estrogens that your body doesn't know what else to do. And that's the kind of stuff that will make you sick. I really think, as time goes on and they talk more about the connection between the gut and the brain, and the fact that they are not actually two completely separate entities, as mood swings with gut health will show you, we're going to start to learn that pretty much everything's coming down to this stuff. But for our purposes today, because I've had this incredibly, sometimes traumatic, but eye-opening experience with my own health to learn it, it's extremely important for women, especially if you're having, like you said, sugar in your coffee or this or that. It's really, really important to pay attention to this stuff.
Oh, yeah. And then your previous discussion with the sugar and how it's hidden, and how there's 40 some different names for sugar. And even though you think you're doing good, you're really not doing so good.
Right, right. And it gets, you saw the graphic, right? It's not pleasant to look at our little body and engine, but you got a lot of plumbing there. You've got a lot of opportunities for things to just get stuck.
Yeah.
Sick making, broken down things your body doesn't need anymore, just hanging around and making you sick. At the end of the day, that's kind of really what this is about. So you want to eat the stuff that's going to make its way through and take some stuff out with it, and you want to avoid the stuff that's going to slow that highway down. That's really what intake is about. So moving on, if you would, babe, to your next one. There you go, lubrication and movement, right? So let's go back to the engine analogy, and let's think about all of that plumbing we're talking about and how important it is to keep things moving through. So, Brussels sprouts are great, but they're pretty grainy. So you need to keep the system lubricated. You need to drink plenty of water. And that might sound obvious, but people don't really know how to necessarily drink or get their water. First of all, we eat a lot of processed foods, and then we slam bottles of water all day. And then you're just trying to rehydrate this dried processed food in your system. That doesn't really work. So you want to try to start to get more of your day-to-day hydration from your food, right? Back to that intake section, more fruits and vegetables. Those are mostly, some 75 to 95% water. So if you get more water in your food, your system is already by default going to have a more hydrated environment. And then drink water when it's appropriate and pay attention to it. Obviously, you want to make sure you're hydrated, but people tend to try to make up for poor diet or other things with just hammering their body with lots and lots of water, that in and of itself really isn't the way to go. Now you're kind of diluting everything that your body needs in there to work. But you do make sure that you are keeping, water content, high water content foods, water over the course of the day. Getting up in the morning and having water is important. Water before you go to bed is important, because you want to keep your system moving. You're going to sleep for hours, right? So you want to make sure your body's got what it needs to do what it needs to do while you're asleep. So making sure there's adequate hydration. If you're a big coffee drinker, then you want to look at that, or tea drinker, or you have a lot of alcohol day to day, or even just really any alcohol. Those are diuretics, right? So that's -1 on the water column. So you got to add a little more water in. So if you're somebody who drinks a good amount of coffee all day, chances are you might not be getting enough water, because how much fluid can you take all day? So you want to pay attention to those things and make sure that you're getting sufficient hydration. The engine needs that for a number of reasons. So you'll see your liver and kidney function, which starts at the top of that whole process. The removal of toxins and getting, like we said, those broken down bits. You just want to get that stuff out of there. If you're starting to suffer from symptoms of imbalance, right? Your mood's starting to go to hell, or you're tired, you're fatigued, you need a nap in the middle of the day, you're bloated, your pants don't fit right. I mean, we all know how this feels, right? I don't need to tell anybody what this feels like. As that's starting to come on, get yourself some water, and know that your system needs a little bit of help moving things along. In terms of movement, you want to keep the body going, because again, you've got all the plumbing, right? And it needs to keep moving. Yoga's good for that, because there are poses in yoga that will kind of move you and knock things along, right? You want to keep the system going. You want to keep strength and muscle tone. You want to keep, because muscle tone is going to help keep your body, keep your body fat down. Estrogen is going to hide in your body fat. So you want to pick up heavy things and build some muscle tone. Body weight exercises, weight training. Ladies, don't be afraid to pick stuff up and put it back down and make your body stronger. It's going to keep everything going. It's going to keep your system moving. The body's meant to move. And as long as you get something in every day and things aren't getting locked up in your system, that's how the middle part of this process gets to work. So we've talked about what's going in and keeping the balance of what's going in. We've talked about what's keeping things moving along: exercise, water in our food, sufficient hydration as things are moving through the process. Now, we'll talk a little bit, and pardon me, but we're going to get a little bit real here, on what I didn't know until very recently was the critical point of this whole thing. The stuff's got to go. You've got to give your body a chance to keep itself in balance and to get rid of the things it does not need. So we talked about the fiber in your digestive tract, and making sure that you're getting plenty of fiber in your foods, getting plenty of water, getting plenty of movement. You want to keep away from the things that are going to lock you up or muddy up your system, clog the machine. And instead, you want to eat foods that are going to encourage things to keep moving along and keep, everything squeaky clean inside of you. Keep the system moving along, avoid the backups, because the backups cause backups. You don't want estrogen to back up in your system. But most importantly, and this is where I want to stop and maybe have a conversation with you girls, pay attention to your body, to your mood, to your energy level in real time. What led me to discover this for myself was after my most recent relapse. I really was desperate to figure out what I had missed and what I could do to get things back on track, because I just really don't want to go have this massive surgery. And I've been successful to this point. And for every day that I can be successful with it is another day I don't have to do it. And I'm one more day closer to menopause, and I'll be 50 this year. So, you know, here's hoping, knock wood. But more importantly, what I've come to know is that if it keeps my body from angrily reacting, then it's probably really good for my health overall. So this is not just about keeping myself out of surgery. This is about having a healthy balance overall, a healthy emotional balance, healthy sleep. These are the things I missed with this last bit that I wasn't paying enough attention to. And it's really, really critical. So after my last relapse, I went and got a handful of those composition notebooks at Staples and just started writing all this stuff down. Now, you don't have to be as nutty as I am with it, but this is the call to action part of the conversation. Start paying attention to what is happening with your body, around what is happening in your bathroom, around how you're sleeping, around your mood, around what you're eating. It is absolutely 100% all connected. And if you can get yourself on a regular schedule and keep things going, you will find that a lot of those issues that we talked about earlier in the conversation are going to all of a sudden and simultaneously start to kind of fall away. And conversely, if you're not paying attention to it, you'll see them all kind of flare up at one time. We all know how horrible that feels, how quickly the mood can descend on you, how your clothes don't feel comfortable, how you don't feel good in your skin, how maybe you're down or feeling a little bit more anxious, no energy, can't sleep, all of those things that just overall feeling. Chances are you just need to get the machine humming again and get that crap out of there, and you'll feel a whole lot better. So there you have it. I had a few more tweaks, and then I thought we could take some questions. So there should be one more page there, Lucy, a couple more add-in things I just wanted to mention. To your breath work, keep your stress manageable. I found that if you're under extreme stress, it's very hard to get your hormones back into balance. Obviously, there's adrenaline and fight or flight hormones that are involved. So, you know, it's all one family of hormones. But if you're under significant stress, you're probably going to have trouble managing some of the other stuff we talked about. So try to keep that together. Might be breathing better. You know, some breath work and taking care of your stress that way. Getting restful and recuperative sleep is vital. Again, your system needs time to get the stuff out and processed and cleaned out and ready for the next fresh day. So sleep is really important for that. Building in some downtime on the eating. I'm not necessarily recommending intermittent fasting or anything along those lines, but build in 12 hours between your last meal and your first one. I mean, that's not really that big a deal. That's like a 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. type situation. Like, get as close to 12 as you can to give your body some time to work that stuff through your system. Again, you're just trying to give the machine a chance to not experience backup, and keep track. Write it down, get an app on your phone, whatever it is. But if you start to make a connection between all of these things, you'll notice that they're all responding to, either favorably or negatively, a lot of the same thing. And once you hit the connection and the ability to kind of manage it for yourself, all of that stuff can be a lot better all at once. So it's a really nice bang for the buck.
Yeah, for sure. All well said. All great stuff. And I mean, it's stuff you don't even think about. A lot of the, you know, it's day-to-day things, but if you're not paying attention, how it starts affecting your overall health. If you're doing it day in and day out, as you say. You know, your regular coffee, too much sweets, add in alcohol, maybe on every other night or something like that. It just creates hell, especially if your body's also going through changes.
Mhm. It's so easy to fall off track with this to the point that I'm a health coach who desperately needs to get it right for herself, and I still get tripped up. It's that easy to, because if you eat a little sugar, then you have a little more sugar, then you forget to go to the bed, whatever it is. It's so, you're not drinking enough water, you too much coffee one day. Like, you don't even realize how easy it is if you're not paying attention. Kay had a question about an app for tracking. When I first started doing this, Kay, I used Cara, which is Cara. It's free. And you can track all of these things on there very easily. So I would get up in the morning and kind of, when you're doing your thing in the bathroom or whatever, like you can just go through and hit your sleep. You can write down what you're eating. It's not about tracking calories necessarily. It's about the actual food items and kind of keeping track of what kind of food items you're putting into your body, but also your mood, your sleep, your water. You'll see it on there. You can track any number of things and you'll start to notice the patterns for yourself.
Thank you. Are you located in the South Florida area? Do you have any kind of classes or sessions?
In which area? I'm sorry?
Fort Lauderdale?
Oh, no, I'm in New Jersey actually, but we can always do something. We can always do something online. I'm always happy to have a discussion or a workshop or anything like that online.
Okay, so I guess I'll contact you via email.
That'd be awesome.
Yes, you have, let me pop up the site again. So you can find Dee at, was on Instagram. What-
And then there's my website with a connect also.
Maybe we can put you can put your email in the chat.
I also have a Gmail, so vegan.
So did your doctor do labs to kind of figure out your imbalance? Did you need to take any medication to get on this path?
I did not. So I did have my hormone levels checked. So to give you a quick history, so this has been going on for several years, and I had several different practitioners trying to help me with it. What they were able to determine a couple of years ago, and I'm going to have the levels checked again, is that I hadn't even started menopause yet. So really all they were telling me was my only option was to take my uterus out of my body. And I just really didn't want to do that. It's just a major, major surgery. I don't have any kind of partial options because of the way that my tumors are situated. So it's kind of everything's got to come out type situation. And it's just a radical surgery. And I just really didn't want to do it. So a lot of my care has been my telling my doctors what's happening with my body. And over time, they're kind of starting to get on the bus with me. I have a hematologist who measures my levels of iron to make sure that, that I'm not anemic, because there are times it can get dangerous in that regard. Right now, I'm fine. But apart from that, no, I'm just measuring it really carefully with them and making sure I stay on top of it. But I've had to basically tell them that this is the course that I want to take for myself until further notice. So I don't want to have any more conversations about surgery.
And are you taking any kind of vitamins, maybe?
I take an iron supplement, and I also take a couple of supplements because I'm vegan. So I take a B12 supplement to make sure that I get B12, and I take iron, B12, and I take like a kelp thing. But no, I'm not taking any actual medications. I am just I'm making sure my iron levels stay in check and that I'm getting sufficient nutrition. And as long as everything stays inactive, then there's really not too much else that I have to do.
Well, thank you for sharing your experience.
No, absolutely. I hope it was
And all
helpful.
this great
Sorry, I got rained on before our meeting. I'm like, I had the dog out. But no, it's and look, and thank you for your questions, Kay. Everybody's experience is different, right? And everybody should have a really open dialogue with their physician. But I will say that they don't talk to you about food, and they don't talk to you about what else you might try. And I couldn't accept that without trying for myself. So everybody's journey is different. A lot of what I experienced was so bad that plenty of people have told me like they wouldn't have waited. They would have had the surgery. I just really didn't want to, but that's a personal choice. But to that end, you have to really pay attention to and know what's happening in your body and bring that information to your doctor. And you tell them. Nobody knows how you feel but you. Nobody understands what's happening in your body but you.
Yeah, well, I mean, in my experience, doctors also just try to medicate. They don't really get to the root of the problem, unfortunately. It takes some time and a lot more education, I think, on their part, and not so much on ways of Western medicine, but maybe a little more natural ways to heal the body, which is also important.
Well, they don't spend more than a handful of hours on nutrition in medical school.
It's very sad.
It's a test and replace model that we have, right? So it's all about testing levels, and here's this medication for this, and here's this for that, and that sort of thing. But there are other ways to go about it. I'm not saying it's a cure-all for everything, and I don't purport to say it's a cure for anything really, but you can draw your own connections to what's happening in your body and feel better. And I mean remarkably better. Like I can't believe kind of how much this lifestyle change has changed everything about my health, and how quickly I'm able now to identify what's happening to me, what's happening to my mood, and what needs to happen, what I need to eat, what I need to drink right now to take care of it. And it's not 100%, but it's so far I'm hanging in, so I'm going to just keep rolling with it.
Well, you mentioned breath work, and then you mentioned a couple of other things, and sleep and breath work, I really am a huge proponent. I just can't say enough about it, because once you get your body also on a rhythmic breathing pattern, because when we're not feeling well, we're not breathing right, we're not breathing healthy, and it's just another contributor to health just going astray. The same with sleep. I notice when I add an extra half an hour or an hour to my own sleep, it does a world of difference. It really, really does. And 35% of Americans don't get enough sleep. 35%. That's huge.
I mean, we really are on every level at crisis point all the time. We're under way too much stress. We're undernourished. We're overfed but undernourished, right? Because most people aren't getting enough nutrition in their food. They're eating foods that are nutrient dense. So we're underhydrated. We don't sleep enough. We don't evacuate enough. We don't move our bodies enough. Like it's just a constant dulling of everything that's in our system all the time, and it's all related.
COVID didn't help,
No.
I mean, I just think we all need to begin having dialogue like this amongst ourselves, really true stories of people that know from experience and from training that there are other ways. And, I've had my I've had my own health experiences, and I just think that we all need to become advocates for ourselves, for our bodies, for the way that we think, just kind of breaking the mold a little bit.
So is this class available every week?
We do things like this once a month, Dee's a great speaker, love having her. And we touch on topics like this, it's just really important, this type of community, because, we need to pass this information along, and we're both very open and available. You can find me on Meetup. You have Dee's email. I mean, we answer questions off the cuff if you send us, whatever is on your mind. So
awesome, thank you.
Well,
because for me, I wouldn't have thought that IBS is hormonal related.
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. So thank you for sharing that. Is that something that you're concerned with? That could absolutely, absolutely be benefited with this type of thing.
Yeah. So many things happen to you from hormonal imbalance. And sometimes even docs are like, oh, I think it's this, but maybe it's this. And, you know, and then maybe you start seeing a couple of different people, maybe specialists. Next thing you know, you've got medication for all these different
Well, yeah.
items, right?
And I think stress is a big factor there. So to your breath work, Lucy, I think stress is a big factor there. I've noticed with anybody that I've worked with that's had any sort of gastrointestinal disturbances, like, you know, stress and anxiety related surges from cortisol or adrenaline, fight or flight, you know, those sort of things. That's gonna have an issue. But they all kind of play together. And there's lots of different things we can do. Kay, if you definitely please shoot me a message, because we can put together, you know, whatever you like. I love talking about this stuff, and you know, love answering questions about it. And I've worked with a lot of people, even just conversationally, just to kind of talk it out and see what's going on and find a couple little tweaks you can make here and there, pull a couple things out, add a couple things in, and before you know it, you're feeling a whole lot better. And it's not a major undertaking. It's just a little bit of knowledge and a couple new habits.
Yeah, I mean, I also offer free discovery sessions on breath work, on life coaching. I'm actually getting into sound therapy, which I'm a big proponent of balancing the body in a way through vibration, through frequency. It's kind of getting the body tuned up, you know, to be able to receive more nutrition, to have a little more openness towards a little more happiness, a little more release of emotions maybe that are holding you back. Emotions and trauma are also contributors to your health, to hormonal imbalance, as Dee was saying before. It's just so many things that you can pick at that can do some damage, bad. So
Thank you.
welcome. Yeah, anytime you want to reach out. Did you have any questions, Wen?
Well, yeah, but I don't have much time now. So I guess I can email.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry for taking that up, but yeah, my
Email
email's
you?
here.
Okay.
Yeah, you can find me through Meetup and through breathewellnessclinic.com. So, I mean, I really thank you for joining us. Sorry you have to run, but I mean, Dee, thank you for the presentation. Yeah, it's just really wonderful information. It's good to be, able to have that in the back of our minds so we can be proactive.
Absolutely.
Right.
No, thank you so much for having me. I'm just realizing I had, if you want to go to my website for now, I just want to make sure that I gave you the right email, but you can get me on my website, which is spicyhealthyvegan.com. And I will, I'll put a comment in the meetup, on the meetup page, with more contact information for you guys. Happy to answer. Lucy, thank you for having me. It's been really something to talk with you about this over the last 6 months. This information has kind of unfolded for me in real time. So coming here every month or two and kind of sharing a little bit more of it as I learn it, in hopes of helping other people, is a great opportunity. So thanks.
Yeah, I mean, you're just great at delivering the information. It's really concise and just very simple to digest. And I just, I appreciate it very much.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank-
ladies, for coming.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a wonderful evening.
Talk soon.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.